We're making a little progress here in the Senate, and I don't always say that to you when we visit, so it's a little bit better right now, and just in the sense that we're starting to move some important legislation.
Well, great. Give us, I obviously, you have an upbeat tone, so tell us
Yeah.
specifically what's going on.
Well, over the last few weeks, we've gotten Trevor's Law moved. That's an Idaho-specific law, and we've made a lot of progress on some other legislation dealing with trying to fix some of our environmental regulatory system. But yesterday, we were able to make a big breakthrough and get agreement to go to conference with the House on an energy bill that is going to truly change, or I guess I should say improve and incentivize our national energy policy. It's not a perfect fix, but it's got some pretty significant energy policy reforms in it that are going to really help our economy.
Obviously, Idaho has deep ties to energy. I don't know if Idaho National Lab would be impacted by this bill, or, we have a lot of hydropower here. Maybe give us an idea of how it could impact specifically Idaho.
Well, let me take that example right there. A bill that Jim Risch and I introduced here in the Senate has been included in this energy package that's now going to conference to deal specifically with advancing the focus and emphasis of our government policy on nuclear power. It will dramatically increase, and I guess I should say lay the foundation for us to move more effectively and efficiently into the next generation of nuclear reactors. And with specific focus on the INL, it will have a big impact on the missions of the INL.
All right. Well, that's great news. Senator, I do want to ask you, let's shift to presidential politics for just a moment. It looks like Donald Trump, as we approach the Republican National Convention, is set to announce, at least at the convention, a vice presidential pick. And some of the names that have risen to the top are Mike Pence, Newt Gingrich, Chris Christie, General Flynn. And we'll get to one of those a little bit later. But Ann Coulter mentioned you in one of her columns, maybe her latest column, suggesting you as a prospect for a vice presidential pick. And when you heard about this, what was your reaction? And are you being vetted?
Well, to my knowledge, I'm not being vetted.
All right.
So I guess I would say that I probably would know if I were at this point.
I would imagine.
So it was, I think, a nice gesture of Ann to suggest my name. I don't know why she did. She didn't call me and talk to me about it. I'm guessing that perhaps she was recognizing my work on trying to fight the national debt and to control the explosion of government regulation in the United States. But it's interesting to see how people's names get suggested, and then how the mix moves along as you try to get clues from the candidate himself as to where he's headed.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of the names that have come up. Governor Pence yesterday introduced Donald Trump to thunderous applause. I mean, it very, very well received. Newt Gingrich is another name that's been thrown about, and he's certainly been a very articulate surrogate for Donald Trump. Chris Christie is good friends with Donald. I mean, as you sort of look at these people who are being considered and maybe put out there as trial balloons, who do you like? Who would you lean toward?
Well, I really like Newt Gingrich. I don't expect that he will be the pick. You may recall, I served in the House of Representatives with Newt Gingrich when we did the contract with America, and we really fought to balance the budget. We did balance the budget, reformed welfare, and so I've worked with Newt, and I understand his commitment to quality conservative principled government. I don't know Mike Pence as well, but I'd have to say from just what I'm picking up, it's more and more looking like he's near the top of the list, if not at the top of the list. Although we have to say that with Donald Trump, you never really know. I mean, he comes at things from a very different perspective, and that's not a criticism. That's just an observation. Mike Pence would be very good. He's a governor. He's got experience in elected office, and that's something that I know Donald Trump has said that he wants to look for, is someone who has some experience in government, and Mike Pence would be a very good call in that context.
One of what your name was actually mentioned in connection with the convention because you've chosen to sit this one out, and I think it was probably a pro-Trump website that called you out on that. But it's you and a whole bunch of others, Republican senators, who are not going. Maybe explain your rationale for not going to Cleveland this year.
Sure, and it had nothing to do with Donald Trump. I don't go to every Republican presidential convention.
Yeah.
I have attended some. My decision was made far before Donald Trump even became the presumptive nominee, and it was just related to the fact that I'm running for office this year. I'm in cycle, and I'm going to spend my time in Idaho campaigning.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk about something a little bit heavier matter. Of course, the Dallas police shootings, national tragedy, just a
Yes.
terrible story. And there's been a lot of division in recent months and a lot of scrutiny on police departments and a lot of rhetoric even from the President of the United States about systemic racism, as he calls it, in our nation's law enforcement agencies. What do you make of his rhetoric? He seems to have changed his tone dramatically since the Dallas shootings, and maybe give us your perspective on the president's past and present rhetoric, and what do we do to kind of heal this divide in America?
Well, I have felt that the president has helped to perhaps push this division forward in some of his comments in the past. I was pleased to see that yesterday he started his remarks by acknowledging that the vast majority of our law enforcement officials around the nation are honorable, good people who are not acting in a racist manner and who, in fact, put their lives every day on the line to protect our freedom. And I think that that's the message that we need to send. Certainly there are some bad apples. There are going to be situations in which you have bad actions by police officers. But that doesn't mean that we should taint all police officers because of the actions of a few. And I'll tell you, I believe that we should stand up and loudly support the men and women who defend our safety here at home, just as those who go into the military to defend our freedoms abroad. And I tell the law enforcement officers I see throughout Idaho that personally every time I get an opportunity.
All right, Senator, last question. The Sanctuary Cities law. I know that you cast a vote on that. Tell us your thoughts on it.
Well, I was very disappointed that the vote was filibustered and failed because of a filibuster. This is a law that would have imposed some penalties on those cities across the United States which are growing in number that refuse to, frankly, enforce our immigration laws. In the case that is at issue here, Kate Steinle, a young woman in California, was murdered by an illegal immigrant who had been deported 3, 4, or maybe even 5 times and had committed aggravated assault. And yet the city of San Francisco just would not enforce the laws and hold him and turn him over to the Department of Homeland Security, which had requested that. I believe we need to have enforcement of our laws in the United States, and it was appropriate for us to require that the cities comply with the efforts of our federal officials to enforce our immigration laws. And I should also say that this bill would have also helped to relieve some of the cities of potential litigation liabilities for enforcing the law, which some of the cities are raising.
Senator, isn't it kind of absurd, we don't have much time here, that we are now in a phase that we have to actually pass a law to say we need to uphold the law?
Yes, it is. And, frankly, across this country, there are a lot of people who are objecting to the level of intrusion by the law into their lives and their freedoms. And I think that the growth of government is an issue that's a legitimate one for people to pay attention to. But when it comes to laws that protect us, the laws against criminal actions against us, I think we should have much stronger unanimity in this country that we should support them and enforce them.
All right, Senator Crapo joining us from the nation's capital. Senator, great to have you on. Thank you.